7 years of carrying you is enough, Andrew. Sign them tonight. Emma's voice cut through the Christmas chatter like a blade wrapped in silk. She stood over me at the dinner table, elegant in her red dress, holding a gift box with a silver bow. Her family's mansion glowed with twinkling lights, the scent of roasted turkey and expensive wine filling the air. I could hear Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas" playing softly in the background, a cruel soundtrack to what was about to happen. I opened the box slowly. Inside, nestled between tissue paper, were divorce papers. The table erupted. Emma's mother Patricia pressed her hand to her chest, laughing so hard tears streamed down her face. Her father Richard slapped the table, his bourbon sloshing over the rim of his glass. "Oh, Emma, you wrapped them. That's brilliant." Marcus, her younger brother, raised his champagne flute high. "To freedom. Emma's finally cutting the dead weight." They clinked glasses like they were celebrating New Year's Eve. Like my marriage ending was the punchline to a joke 7 years in the making. Emma leaned down close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same one I'd bought her last Christmas when I scraped together every dollar I had. She whispered, but loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're pathetic, Andrew. You always have been. I'm done pretending you're anything more than a burden." My hand trembled as I held the papers. The room spun slightly. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for me to break, to beg, to give them one final show. Instead, I folded the papers carefully, stood up, and walked toward the front door. The laughter followed me like ghosts. Marcus called out, "Where you going, loser? Don't you want dessert?" I stopped at the door. Snow was falling outside, visible through the glass panels. My reflection stared back at me, tired eyes, cheap suit, the face of a man they'd convinced was worthless. I didn't turn around. "Merry Christmas, Emma." The cold air hit me like a baptism as I stepped outside. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "It's time, Mr. William. Should I proceed?" My thumb hovered over the screen for only a second. Then I typed one word, "Yes." Behind me through the window I could still see them laughing, toasting, celebrating. They had no idea that the man they just humiliated wasn't the failure they thought he was. I was the one who'd been funding every smile in that room for the past 7 years. Every mortgage payment on that mansion. Every car in their driveway. Every vacation they bragged about. And now I was about to take it all back. I walked into the snow without looking back, my footprints disappearing behind me as fast as I made them. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos. I woke up on Christmas morning in my downtown apartment, the one Emma didn't know I owned. The one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, and silence so complete I could hear my own breathing. This place was mine. Really mine. Purchased 3 months ago under an LLC Emma never bothered to ask about. My phone had 47 missed calls. 32 from Emma. 15 from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored all of them and made coffee, watching the snow blanket the streets below. Last night felt like a dream. Or maybe the past 7 years felt like the dream and I'd finally woken up. I remembered sitting in that chair at dinner, fork in hand, listening to Richard brag about his latest construction contract. The one I'd secured for him through a shell company. The one that kept his failing business afloat. I remembered Patricia talking about her charity work, dripping with diamonds I'd indirectly paid for. Marcus showing off his new Rolex, purchased with money from a trust fund tied to investments I'd quietly managed. And Emma. Beautiful, cold Emma, smiling at me like I was a stray dog she'd finally worked up the courage to abandon. My grandfather's voice echoed in my head. 7 years, Andrew. Live as an ordinary man. Find someone who loves you, not your money. Prove you can spot gold from garbage. I'd failed that test. But I'd learned something more valuable. I'd learned exactly who these people were. And now the 7 years were over. 2 months ago, on my 35th birthday, my grandfather's fortune transferred to my name. $4 billion. Real estate holdings across 6 countries. Controlling interest in 12 companies. Including the private equity firm that now owns 70% of Richard's debt. My phone buzzed. David, my assistant. "Sir, the Williams accounts have been frozen as requested. Mrs. Patricia Williams' offshore accounts are flagged for investigation. Mr. Richard Williams' largest creditor is demanding immediate payment. Should I proceed with phase 2? I took a sip of coffee. It was good coffee. Ethiopian blend, single origin. The kind of thing I couldn't afford when I was pretending to be poor. Proceed. Across town, in that mansion where they were probably still laughing about last night, Emma's world was about to collapse. And she wouldn't even see it coming. Emma stretched across silk sheets, her phone already in her hand before her eyes fully opened. The bedroom was warm, sunlight streaming through curtains that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She scrolled through Instagram, smiling at the notifications. 43 comments on her post from last night. A photo of her in that red dress, caption, "New year, new chapter. Sometimes you have to let go of what's holding you back." Her friends were celebrating with her. Heart emojis. "You go, girl. Finally. You deserve so much better." Patricia knocked once and entered without waiting, carrying a tray with coffee and croissants. "Morning, sweetheart. How does it feel to be free?" Emma sat up, accepting the coffee. "It feels right, Mom. I should have done this years ago. Your father and I are so proud of you. That man was dragging you down. No ambition, no prospects. What kind of husband can't even afford to take his wife on a proper vacation?" Emma thought about the time Andrew suggested they go camping for their anniversary. Camping. Like they were college students instead of a married couple. She'd gone to Paris with her friends instead, put it on a credit card Andrew somehow always managed to pay off. "The lawyers called already," Patricia continued. "Everything's finalized. The house is in your name, the joint accounts, all of it. He signed everything before he left last night." "He didn't even fight?" "What could he fight with? The man has nothing." Patricia laughed, that tinkling sound she reserved for gossip and triumph. "Honestly, Emma, I think he knew he was lucky to have you as long as he did." Emma's phone rang. A known number. She ignored it. It rang again immediately. "Persistent," Patricia muttered. On the third call, Emma answered. "Hello. Ms. William, this is Jennifer Chen from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding your accounts." "What about them?" "There's been a freeze placed on all accounts under your name pending a review of ownership documentation." Emma's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. "What do you mean, a freeze?" "Ma'am, it appears the primary account holder has filed for separation of assets. All joint accounts have been suspended until legal proceedings are complete." "That's impossible. My lawyer said everything was in my name. I'm showing here that your husband, Andrew William, is listed as the primary owner on all accounts. You're listed as an authorized user." The phone slipped slightly in Emma's hand. "That can't be right. Check again." "I've checked 3 times, ma'am. And there's another issue. The mortgage payment on 447 Riverside Estate bounced this morning. The account it was set to auto-pay from no longer exists." Emma's mother went pale. "That's this house." Richard's office smelled like leather and cigar smoke, the kind of old-money atmosphere he'd spent 30 years building. He sat behind his mahogany desk reviewing contracts when his assistant Maria burst through the door without knocking. "Sir, we have a serious problem." Richard looked up, annoyed. "Maria, I've told you to knock. The Whitmore contract just canceled. They signed with someone else." Richard's cigar fell from his hand. "What? Whitmore is our biggest client. That's a $40 million project. There's more." Henderson pulled out. So did Pacific Development. And Coastal Builders. The room tilted slightly. 4 contracts. Gone in one morning. Who the hell did they sign with? A company called Apex Holdings. Nobody's heard of them, but they're offering better rates and faster timelines. Richard grabbed his phone, dialing Tom Whitmore directly. They'd played golf together for 15 years. The call went to voicemail. So did the next 3 calls. His lawyer phoned within the hour. "Richard, we need to talk. Someone bought out your commercial debt. All of it. And they're calling it in." "How much?" $4.3 million. Due Friday." Richard's mouth went dry. "That's impossible. That debt isn't due for another 2 years. The new owner has an acceleration clause. They want payment in full or they take the company." His lawyer paused. "Richard, whoever this is, they're not playing games. They knew exactly which debts to buy and when to call them." Richard's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You laughed at the wrong man, Richard. Merry Christmas." His hands shook as he read it again. And again. The only person he'd laughed at recently was Andrew at dinner last night. But that was impossible. Andrew was nobody. A bookkeeper who could barely afford his own car. Wasn't he? Marcus William lived in a penthouse with a view that cost $10,000 a month. Money he didn't earn. It came from a trust fund his father set up and a VP title at the family company that required him to show up maybe twice a week. He was getting ready for a yacht party, admiring himself in a $3,000 suit, when his platinum card declined at the liquor store. "Try it again," he told the cashier. "Sir, it says the account is frozen." Marcus pulled out 2 more cards. Declined. Declined. His phone rang. The bank. Mr. William, there's a lien on your trust fund for unpaid personal guarantees. What guarantees? You co-signed a commercial loan guarantee 2 years ago for $780,000. The loan has been called and the primary borrower defaulted. Marcus's mind raced. 2 years ago. His father had asked him to sign some paperwork at a family dinner. Just insurance documents, Dad had said. Andrew had been there, quietly setting the papers in front of him. Andrew. This is a mistake, Marcus said. I'll call my father. But when he tried to access his investment accounts online, every single one showed the same message. Account temporarily restricted pending legal review. His girlfriend Vanessa walked out of the bedroom. Babe, my card got declined too. What's going on? Marcus sat down on his white leather couch, the one he'd bragged about on Instagram last week. The same couch that would be repossessed in 72 hours. A courier knocked on his door. Inside the envelope was a single piece of paper. You called me pathetic. Let's see how you do with nothing. Andrew. Patricia stood at the podium of the Heritage Country Club, surrounded by 50 of the wealthiest women in the state. Her annual Christmas charity luncheon, the event she'd been planning for months. Everything was perfect. The flowers, the champagne, the photographer capturing every moment for the society pages. She was mid-sentence talking about giving back to the community when her phone started buzzing. What? Twice? 10 times in 30 seconds. Her friend Margaret leaned over, whispering urgently. Patricia, you need to see this. Someone handed her a tablet. On the screen was a video. Security footage. Dated 3 years ago. Patricia watched herself on screen in Richard's office, arguing with him. Her own voice crystal clear. He'll never notice if we move it offshore. Michael and I have been planning this for months. Once the company goes under, we disappear with everything. The video had been posted an hour ago. Already 200,000 views. The room fell silent. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Patricia's face drained of all color. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered. Within seconds, the whispers became a roar. Patricia, is this real? You've been embezzling? Who's Michael? Patricia tried to speak but no words came. Her hands trembled so violently the tablet slipped and clattered to the floor. She ran, heels clicking against marble, her reputation shattering with every step. In the parking lot, a black Mercedes waited. A man in an expensive suit stepped out, holding an envelope. Mrs. William? I'm from Crawford and Associates. Mr. Andrew William requested I deliver this personally. Inside were 2 documents. Divorce papers from Richard. And a lawsuit for embezzlement, fraud, and theft totaling $8 million. Emma sat on the floor of what used to be her living room. The furniture was gone. Repossessed yesterday. The electricity had been shut off this morning. Her phone was down to 3% battery, and she'd made 62 calls in the past 4 days. Nobody would help her. Her parents were drowning in legal fees. Marcus wouldn't answer. Her friends had all gone silent once the news broke about her family. She'd been so confident a week ago. So sure she was making the right choice. Andrew was the problem, she told herself. He was holding her back from the life she deserved. Now she understood. Andrew had never been the problem. He'd been the solution and she'd thrown him away like trash. Her fingers shook as she dialed his number one more time. Rang. And rang. She'd almost given up when she heard his voice. Hello, Emma. He sounded different. Calm. Controlled. Powerful. Andrew, please. I don't understand what's happening. Everything's falling apart. My accounts, the house, my parents. Is it? Please, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have. Shouldn't have what, Emma? Shouldn't have humiliated me in front of your family? Shouldn't have called me pathetic? Shouldn't have wrapped divorce papers like they were a joke? She was crying now, something she hadn't done in years. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you sorry for what you did? Or sorry that it didn't work out the way you planned? Silence. Andrew, who are you? He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was almost gentle. Almost. I'm the man who built everything you thought was yours. I'm the man who paid for every comfort you enjoyed while you looked down on me. And now you're going to learn what it's like to have nothing. The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone as it died, the screen going black. Then she saw a news notification on the lock screen before it faded completely. Mysterious billionaire acquires multiple local holdings. Identity unknown. I stood in my corner office, 40 stories above the city, watching snow fall like the night Emma handed me those papers. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern art on the walls. A view that cost more than Richard's entire house. David entered with his tablet. Sir, the Williams family has lost everything. Richard's company files for bankruptcy tomorrow. Marcus's assets are fully seized. Patricia faces federal charges. And Emma? Broke. Alone. Living in a motel on Highway 9. She's called your personal line 47 times today. I nodded slowly, remembering the last 7 years. Every insult. Every condescending look. Every time they made me feel small. My grandfather's face flashed in my memory. I was 7 years old, sitting in his study after my mother's funeral. She died alone, humiliated by a wealthy family who deemed her unworthy of their son. They'd thrown her out when she got pregnant, called her a gold digger, left her with nothing. Grandfather took me in. Andrew, he said, wealth doesn't build character. It reveals it. Never forget that. 28 years later, he died and left me everything, with one condition. 7 years of living as an ordinary man. 7 years of testing the world around me. I'd met Emma in year 1. She was kind at first before she learned I had no money. Then slowly she changed. Or maybe she just revealed who she'd always been. For 7 years, I funded their lifestyle through shell companies. Anonymous investments. Offshore accounts. I kept Richard's failing company alive. I paid for Marcus's trust fund. I made sure Patricia's charity events never lost money. And they thanked me by treating me like garbage. Sir? David's voice pulled me back. What do you want to do about Emma? I opened my desk drawer. Inside were the divorce papers she'd given me, still unsigned. She wanted a divorce, I said quietly. I'll give her one. But on my terms. Emma sat on a motel bed that smelled like cigarettes and desperation, staring at a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. Clear as day. 8 weeks pregnant. She'd known for a month, since 2 weeks before Christmas. She'd taken 3 tests, gone to a clinic, confirmed it with a doctor. And she'd said nothing. Because she was already planning the divorce, already imagining her life without Andrew dragging her down. Now she was alone with his child growing inside her, and everything she'd built her life on had turned to ash. Her hands trembled as she dialed his number again. He answered on the first ring this time. What is it, Emma? I'm pregnant. The silence on the other end stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. It's yours, Andrew. I'm 2 months pregnant. And you were going to divorce me anyway. It wasn't a question. I didn't know what to do. I was confused, scared. You were going to take my child and raise them thinking I was worthless. That I was pathetic. That I wasn't good enough. Emma's throat closed. Because he was right. That was exactly what she'd planned. She'd imagined telling her child about their father someday, the man who couldn't provide, who couldn't succeed, who she'd had to leave. Please, Andrew. I'll do anything. Anything. Yes, anything. Another long pause. Then, meet me tomorrow. No. Crawford and Associates on 5th Avenue. Come alone. Andrew? But he'd already hung up. Emma lay back on the stained bedspread, one hand on her stomach. She'd destroyed her marriage, her family, her entire life. And now she was about to lose the only thing she had left. The law firm occupied 3 floors of a glass tower downtown. Emma arrived in clothes she'd worn twice already this week, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked nothing like the woman who'd handed out divorce papers at Christmas dinner. Andrew sat at the head of a conference table, flanked by 3 lawyers in suits that cost more than her car used to. He wore charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, looking every inch the powerful man she'd never known existed. Sit, he said. She did. A lawyer slid a document across the polished wood. 20 pages, dense legal text. What is this? Emma's voice cracked. Your way out, Andrew said. $2 million. A house in your name. A car. And a trust fund for the baby, full education, healthcare, everything they'll need. Emma's heart leaped. Andrew, in exchange, you sign over full custody to me when the child is born. The room tilted. What? I'll raise our child. You'll have visitation rights, supervised at first, then more freedom as you prove yourself capable. But they live with me. You want to take my baby? Her voice rose. You can't do that. Andrew leaned forward. I can do anything I want, Emma. I can afford 100 lawyers. You can't afford one. I'll win custody anyway. You have no job, no home, no stability. I'm offering you a better deal than any judge would give. I won't sign this. Then you'll have nothing. And I'll still get my child. But you'll fight it in court for years, losing every battle, drowning in legal fees you can't pay. His eyes were cold. Or you take the deal. Live comfortably. Be part of your child's life. But understand that they'll be raised away from the people who taught you that cruelty is funny. Emma stared at the contract, tears blurring the words. She thought about her parents, about Marcus, about every horrible thing they'd said and done. About the woman she'd become under their influence. 24 hours, Andrew said, standing. After that, the offer disappears. Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat in the dark motel room, contract on the nightstand, hand on her stomach where the baby was growing. 8 weeks. Still so small. Still just a promise. She opened her laptop and typed Andrew's name into Google for the first time in years. The results shocked her into silence. Andrew William, billionaire heir, named to Forbes 30 under 40. William Holdings acquires major stake in global infrastructure. Mysterious investor reshapes commercial real estate market. Photo after photo. Andrew in a tuxedo at charity galas. Andrew shaking hands with senators. Andrew speaking at economic summits. Andrew standing beside the governor, the mayor, people whose names she recognized from headlines. This whole time. 7 years. He'd been him. She clicked on an older article. Jonathan William, industrial magnate, dies at 89. Leaves fortune to grandson with unusual stipulation. The article mentioned a 7-year waiting period. A test of character. Emma's memory flashed back. 7 years ago in a coffee shop, she'd met a quiet man with kind eyes who made her laugh. He worked as a bookkeeper, lived simply but treated her like she mattered. Her father had hated him immediately. No prospects, Emma. You're settling for mediocrity. But Andrew had been safe. Steady. He remembered her coffee order. He listened when she talked. He held her when she cried about her failed auditions. When had she stopped seeing him? When had his kindness become weakness? When had his patience become pathetic? She remembered the exact moment. 2 years into their marriage. Her college roommate Rachel had gotten engaged to a hedge fund manager. They'd thrown an engagement party on a yacht. Emma had shown up in a dress from Target while everyone else wore designer labels. Rachel had hugged her, then whispered, "Are things okay, Em? Financially?" The pity in her voice had been acid. Emma had gone home and looked at Andrew differently. Not as her husband, but as the reason she couldn't keep up. She closed the laptop, crying into her hands. Emma sent Andrew a text. "Meet me at my parents' old house. Please." She stood in the empty mansion where it had all started. No furniture. No decorations. Just space and echoes. The Christmas tree was gone. The table where she'd humiliated him was gone. Everything was gone. Andrew arrived precisely on time. He didn't look around at the emptiness. He just looked at her. "You did this," she said, voice shaking. "You destroyed my family." "No. I revealed who they always were. They're my family, Andrew. They laughed while you humiliated me. They celebrated your cruelty. They raised you to think wealth meant worth." He stepped closer. "Your father built his company on fraud. Your mother embezzled for years. Marcus has never worked a day in his life. I didn't destroy them, I stopped them. And me? What about me? You were cruel, Emma. You looked at me like I was dirt. You mocked me to your friends. You planned to divorce me and take my child without ever telling me they existed." She sank to her knees on the marble floor. "I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. But this," she gestured around, "all of this, it's too much." Andrew knelt in front of her. For the first time, his expression softened. "Is it? You took 7 years of my life. I gave you everything in silence, and you repaid me with contempt. I didn't know. You didn't care." His voice cracked slightly. "That's what hurt, Emma. Not that you didn't know who I was, but that you never cared enough to see me at all." Silence fell between them. "What do you want from me?" Emma whispered. "I want you to understand what you did. I want you to choose our child over your pride. And I want you to become someone worthy of being their mother." Emma looked up at him. "What if I fight for us? Not just the baby. Can you forgive me?" Andrew stood slowly. "I don't know." He walked toward the door, leaving her alone in the ruins of her old life. 6 months later, Emma gave birth to a girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. Andrew stood by the hospital window watching snow fall just like that Christmas night. When the nurse handed Emma the baby, he approached slowly. "She's beautiful," he said softly. Emma looked up at him, exhausted and broken and somehow more real than she'd ever been. "I signed the papers. The custody papers. She's yours." Andrew took the baby gently, carefully. He held her like she was made of glass. Then he sat beside Emma's bed. "I lied," he said. Emma blinked. "What?" "I don't want to take her from you. But the contract." was a test. To see if you'd choose her over yourself. Emma stared at him, tears streaming. You destroyed everything I had, Andrew. My family, my life, everything. I took what was built on lies. Your father faces prison. Your mother faces trial. Marcus is learning to work for the first time in his life. He looked down at the baby. But you chose her. You signed away custody to give her a better life. That's the first selfless thing you've done in years. I don't know who I am anymore. Then figure it out. Away from them. Become someone our daughter can be proud of. Emma touched the baby's tiny hand. What happens now? You have a trust fund. Enough to start over. Raise her right. Prove you're more than what they made you. And us. Andrew's jaw tightened. I don't know if there's an us, Emma. But there's her. He nodded to the baby. And she deserves better than what we had. He stood to leave. Andrew, Emma called. He stopped. Thank you. For not giving up on me. He didn't turn around. But after a moment he nodded. And walked out into the snow, leaving Emma holding their daughter, staring out at a world that suddenly felt full of possibility instead of ruin. 2 years later, Emma would see him at their daughter's second birthday party. He would smile, small, careful but real. She would thank him for the trust fund that paid for her nursing degree. He would tell her he was proud of her. They would never remarry. But they would learn to parent together, build respect from ashes, and give their daughter something neither of them had. A family built on truth instead of lies. Some loves don't survive betrayal. But sometimes, from the ruins, something stronger grows.